Many people in today's society feel a sense of financial failure. They get in debt and cannot seem to find their way out.
That is right. And this morning we've enlisted the help of our own financial counselor, Steve Diggs, to help us find the road to financial peace. And Steve, welcome back, because you're right. We have the January, they say the credit card bills come in. It's kind of gloomy out there. People, I wonder if they just feel overwhelmed and hopeless. What do you think about
You're right. People all over America are feeling hopeless right now. I'll tell you what, in a minute, maybe we can talk about 3 things that are lies that people who are in debt almost always believe. But you know, sort of as a stepping off point here, I'm convinced that we've got a whole nation of Stanley Johnsons. Do y'all know who Stanley Johnson is?
I kind of know,
but you need to give me knowledge.
Tell us.
Stanley Johnson is the guy that's on the commercials, who's riding his power lawnmower. He's the guy that is showing off his country club, and he's talking about his big house. He's talking about his cars, and then he says, "Do you know how I do all this? I'm up to debt, up to my eyeballs in debt." And,
those are funny.
Yeah,
but they're true.
They are
true.
That's
scary.
They are true. Now, I disagree with that commercial's premise that the way you get out of debt is by borrowing more money. That's like trying to get out of a hole by digging deeper. But the truth is, we got a whole nation of Stanley Johnsons. And that brings so much pain and so much debt. There's a new study that has just come out from Science magazine, and I like this. What they did is they got a bunch of people together under a couple of control groups from 2 or 3 universities, University of Minnesota, University of Florida, a couple of others, and essentially they motivated one group with money issues, and the other group they motivated with other more important issues, you know, relational issues and so forth. And then they did some controlled tests on these groups, and they found that the Bible is right, by the way, that the love of money is the root of all evil. People worry about money, and they get into trouble about this. They found that those people that had been money oriented were the people who gave less, they volunteered less of their time, and also they were people who chose to be by themselves. They were less relational, less involved with other people in the culture.
Just kind of obsessed with it.
And they really were.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that they have more of it. It just means it's on their mind constantly. So how do we just basically stop worrying about money? You have to think about it, but how do you stop worrying about it?
Well, what we need to understand is this, that failure can be our teacher, doesn't need to be our undertaker. And a lot of us, you know, feel like we fail. We think we've made all kinds of mistakes that we can't overcome. And there are 3 lies that at least I run into. We've taught this material to people, well over 500,000 people around the country. And I talk with people all the time, I counsel with people all the time, dealing with money, and we run into 3 things that people everywhere seem to believe that are lies. But as long as we believe them, we're going to play them out. First thing that people who are in debt believe is that they believe that they're all alone. They think that they're the only one here.
You don't want to tell your friends that you're having money problems.
No, you really don't.
They're not having problems, so it's just me.
Sometimes you think, they may say, oh, we're out of debt, and then you just feel even worse. Like no one knows what I'm going through.
Well, you know, we live in a nation where people wear the mask. I mean, we drive cars we can't afford. The average car loan now is 63 months long. We see people wearing $150 tennis shoes. We see the other kids wearing better clothes than our kids. So we feel this pressure to keep up with the Stanley Johnsons in this world. But Stanley Johnson is going down the tube in a hurry. And the truth is, we're not all alone. The studies show that over 70% of people that are struggling with money I should say that over 70% of people in America are struggling with money, and they're living from paycheck to paycheck. The real number is 72%. That's from the Wall Street Journal study. The second thing, though, that people that are in trouble with money almost always believe is they feel like they're hopeless. They don't think that there's any solution to the problem. And the truth is, there are solutions. As a matter of fact, maybe next week we can talk a little bit about getting out of debt the right way.
I think that would be wonderful. And what's the 3rd lie people tell themselves?
The 3rd lie that people tell themselves is that they're dumb. It's interesting how often when I'm counseling with somebody dealing with money, at some point they'll just stop and they'll say, you know, Steve, I just feel so stupid. I feel so dumb. I was working with a middle-aged lady earlier this week. She's a wonderful lady, well-educated, got a good job, recently lost her husband. She's dealing with the money, and she looked at me at one point in the conversation. She said, Steve, I just feel so stupid. And the truth is, being dumb and being in debt are 2 radically different things. It's a matter of what we do, and it's a matter of gaining some knowledge, but it's a whole lot lot more a matter of what we do with our hearts, making up our minds that we don't want to be like this.
Absolutely.
And we can change things. People that are in debt can consistently get completely out of debt if they do the right things. And we'll talk about this next week, in a 1 to 4 year period, not counting their homes.
Okay.
And that's
So
the
that
good
gives
news.
people hope.
There-
You're saying it's
there's a
light at
lot
the end of the
hope out
tunnel.
there.
So you're not alone. It's not hopeless. You're not dumb. All you have to do is stay tuned for Steve Diggs. Going to help us
Yes.
out next week. We'll talk about how to get out of debt. And what's your website so everybody can check you out?
Website is stevediggsboom.com.
All right. Thank you for coming.